Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It is Monday review time as we look back on back-to-back clean sheets, back-to-back 3 points, and the first away victory of the season. As you can see, unfortunately, I'm not joined by Reese from German Gills this afternoon, but I think you will all agree I have a very able replacement. It's none other than Gills COO Paul Fisher. Fish, really appreciate you taking time out of your Sunday. Can see that you've enjoyed a round of golf this morning, and that's well deserved. So thank you for coming on and joining me to look back on what was a really professional performance from the boys yesterday.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I mean, how good did it feel waking up this morning? How good did it feel waking up this morning having got a victory? I mean, I was still buzzing. I was still buzzing this morning.
We've just said that the last couple of Sundays have felt very different. Even after the Leicester game, I thought as well, even though we got beaten, we were out of the cup, the introduction for Brad and Shannon on the pitch and the family, and the fact that the Priestfield was pretty much full up and hasn't been for a few years now, or certainly not near regular enough. I just think in such a short space of time, and I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent and turn this into the Brad Galinson show, although that would be great fun, but the whole place just feels incredibly different in what is now, well, 1 day less than a month since it was announced that he was coming in to take a majority sharehold.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely, Matt, definitely. I mean, I thought at the end of the game yesterday, people wanted to stay and they were chanting Brad's name and waving American flags. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, when I was driving back on the A12 like everybody else was yesterday, I was still thinking we're still second to bottom of the football league, but the sort of general feeling around the football club is just it's just such a feeling of positivity. It feels like it did 20 years ago when I was here before, when we were trying to get into the championship. It's just got that fantastic buzz about the place.
Yeah, I think, and a lot of people, I think, liken, especially last week, the Hartlepool victory to the first day of the season. It felt like a completely new start. So, but almost, well, it essentially is half a season, is it? We've got half a season to enjoy, get ourselves out of them bottom two, and then I think just enjoy the rest of the games for what they are, and then hopefully have a real go at the top end of this division come 23-24.
Well, I think what we've got left, 22 games, is it? I think we've got left, is it 20 to 21 or 22? I think
20,
it's 22
21,
games.
I think now, yeah, 21 games I think we've got left.
21 games, 63 points, and I actually think the way the boys are playing at the moment, anything could happen. Anything could happen. I'm feeling so much more positive than I was, a month ago or even sort of 6 weeks ago. It's just, I just think it's great the way the new players are immediately settled into the side, and also how those new players are bringing the best out of some of the other players. You just see, it's this big word, confidence, isn't it? In any sporting environment, confidence is a big word.
Yeah, and I'd like to add momentum to that one as well. And we've certainly got momentum in terms of the positivity that you've spoken about. And again, you were talking about 6 weeks ago, but it was night and day, the performance against Colchester United at their place compared to the performance against Colchester United at our place. We were so bad. We were awful that day on Boxing Day. But yesterday, I thought we were spot on.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of, I didn't have the best of Christmases on the back of that performance. But what I was really encouraged by yesterday, I don't know if the fans probably thought this, but right from the kickoff, as much as it went back to Will Wright, and if I remember rightly, he then miskicked it. But it was, I just felt we were completely on the front foot. We took the game to Colchester right from the word off, and I found that massively encouraging.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and I remember he tried to clip one over behind, and unfortunately, it was akin to me trying to play golf off the tee, I'd imagine, and that's why I leave it to people.
It's a bit like mine off the first this morning.
But yeah, I remember corners and set plays and throw-ins in decent areas, but then what we did well was we really soaked up a load of good pressure as well, and I think, again, to go back to your comment about a month 6 weeks ago, I think that's a game we'd lose comfortably 6 weeks ago, because invariably we'd have conceded the first goal. And people know I took a break from doing the previews and the review shows for a while. I mean, I always do over Christmas because there's just not enough time and family comes first still. But I think it was middle to end of November, I decided to stop doing some of the shows and just concentrate on the match vlogs, because we were just copy and pasting what we were saying, Paul, and you've seen it on social media. It was, we've started all right, we've conceded a soft goal, we've had a go, and we've conceded another soft goal, and we've got beat, and we lack a clinical edge up front. And that was what we were saying all the time, and it just became a bit tedious.
Yeah, and I think some of the boys in the team probably were always thinking about, if we concede a goal, how can we get out of this? How can we score two?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And I think you could see that every time we conceded a goal, you could see that sort of confidence drain out of the boys.
Because teams were coming to play against us at home and away and knew if they scored one, that was essentially 3 points, or, they weren't losing the football match.
Yeah, no, absolutely. For whatever reason, it wasn't working out, but, Mikel Mandron, I think he's a good player. Maybe he just didn't fit into the system we were trying to play. We were expecting him to do a job that probably he wasn't built for, but he's gone up. He scored 2 goals for Motherwell yesterday, and
I was made up for him yesterday. I'm not going to lie. I think he's a really nice bloke. He interacts on things like Instagram and stuff like that. If you ever message him or tag him in anything, and I don't think it was fair that it was levelled at him that he stopped trying. I just think some players just play the game that way, that they've got a natural gait that maybe means they just look a bit more casual. But I don't for 1 minute think me could ever stop trying for us.
No, and I don't think any of the boys have stopped trying.
No.
Every match I've been to this season, I think I've only missed 1 or 2. Every match, I think all the players have put a shift in for Neil. It's just for whatever reason, it's just not worked out. But hopefully we've turned that corner now.
Yeah, and I think another great thing as well, and you've mentioned new signings coming in and having a very instant impact. Obviously, Tom Nichols, and we'll get onto him more particularly later on in the show. But it's great to be able to name an unchanged 11 as well, wasn't it? Because of the fact that everyone had played so well the previous game, and not because we didn't have any options or, we weren't trusting the players that were on the bench, or as I don't like calling them backups. That's an unfair terminology, I think, but. It was just brilliant to be able to name 11 players that had really gone and put a shift in and earned 3 points the week before, and they went and did it again, and probably even better.
Well, it's a squad, isn't it? It's a squad. It's a squad game. Any sport these days, be it football, rugby, all this sort of stuff, with the number of substitutes you can bring in, it's moved away from being just a 11 man team. Me and Neil have spoke about it. It's all about having a strong squad, competition, makes them play better. Makes people sort of want to keep their place in the team. But I was so encouraged yesterday that we had a great performance last week, and Neil kept an unchanged team, and I think that was exactly the right decision. Yeah,
I mean, it's great. We've got the benefit of hindsight that we've won 2-0 again, so it's easy to say that. I'd imagine if we got turned over, some would have said, well, why didn't George Lapsley start, and that type of thing. But it's great to have people coming on to see out games like we had yesterday. Shea Alexander, I thought, come on and was brilliant as we went to a back 5. I thought George Lapsley showed glimpses of what we're going to see moving forward on a more consistent basis. And, to have a pro like Stuart O'Keefe able to see out the game for us shows that we are getting there. And if we can get the 4 in, or the 6, depending on who you believe from last week, Hesse or Neil, I think we'll be absolutely fine.
Hess went out on a bit of a limb on that, I think, on Thursday night when he said about 6. So
we'll settle for 5 as a fan base. I think we'll go in the middle and we'll be fine.
Yeah, I'd settle I think quality. I think it's all about quality at this stage.
It is, and I think the great thing is that yes, we've signed Jaden Clark and Ethan Coleman for the more mid to longer term, I'd imagine. But the likes of Glenn and George that we've already mentioned, Timmy, Ollie and Tom up front are all for the here and now. They've come on and they have had an excellent impact straight away. And I'm loving Tim Dieng's reactions to the Gills social media at the end of games. I think they're brilliant. Let's get back to the game. That first half, we come out and we started really well. We did. I thought in Colchester, to be fair to them, were probably not the better side, I don't think. They had a lot of ball, and I've always said that you don't win football matches just by having a lot of the football. But they certainly bossed territory. But I thought our defending was spot on. We defended our box really well. We kept in our shape really well. I've written down on my notes 1 Glenn Morris save. I think it was from the lad Chilvers, the left-footed effort that Glenn got out to his left. But it was a good height and it was right. It wasn't fully extending Glenn, and I just think a keeper of his experience, it was a routine save. But even when we didn't have the ball, I can't speak for the entire fan base, but I didn't feel like we was ever under any real pressure throughout the first period. I don't think they ever got in behind us, really, apart from probably one John Akindi flash across the box, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the footballing gods were slightly, you feel as if the sort of gods sort of turned for us a little bit.
About time.
I would guarantee you probably, Tranmere away and games like that, if a player had got in behind us like that, whipped the ball across, there would have been somebody in there to slam it in the roof of the net. And you just feel maybe that our luck has changed a little bit. I mean, I thought we were reasonably under control most of the game yesterday. I knew we were, second half, we were winning 2-0 at half time, and we played relatively defensive that second half. But hey, it was a professional away performance, in my opinion. It's what you do. You don't come out and try to score third when you're 2-0 up.
Oh, totally agree. No, totally
3
agree
points
with
is what
the
mattered.
I thought we were, and the best thing we did in that first period again was something we've not done all season. Is when our chances came, we were super clinical and we took them. We had 2 good chances that first half, and that was David Tatonda's header and Tom Nichols' header. I think the other one was probably Dom Jeffries, which was self-made when he pinched it off the wing back and it led to the corner for the second goal. And the great thing was, because we knew that was the last phase of the half, we could lob everyone into their box because we knew as soon as it came out their 18-yard area, the ref was going to blow up for the interval anyway. But it was nice of Colchester to not bother marking. And I see Tom's been having a little bit of banter with some people on Instagram regarding how good he'd be if he was tall enough.
Oh, too old. Was it too? What did they say? Probably too old and too short, or something.
Something like that, yeah. So fair play. Thank you, Wagme. I've said that twice now. Thank you very much for your weird approach to keeping footballers at your football club, and it already looks a snip regardless of what the fee is. 2-2, top scorer in the league, which tells us all we need to know about our problems before January.
He looks such an intelligent player as well, doesn't he, Tom? I think he just looks such an intelligent player. When the ball comes to him, just a little shimmy here, a shimmy there, and he kind of creates another 10 yards on the pitch for himself, and or somebody can bring into the game. So I think he's, I just think he's an intelligent player, and I think actually I watched the goal back last night, and actually, he sort of peels off, and it makes it look like he's completely unmarked. He's a very, very intelligent player, I think, is Tom.
I think also as well, just to build on that as well, and again, Paul, you're spot on. I don't think he was in the game a lot yesterday. Like the Hartlepool game, he was well in the game. We saw him a lot of the ball. He was drifting into areas, driving at the fullbacks, the centre backs. Because we were away yesterday, and you rightly said we were playing on the counter to a degree, especially second half. I don't think he had loads of touches, but when the ball came into an area where he could be dangerous, he was very dangerous and ultimately helped us win the football match. And I thought when he did touch the ball, he was a threat again, albeit more fleetingly than in the game the week before on his debut.
Yeah, well, look, we're away from home. This is what happens when you're away from home. You don't go out and you don't have sort of 70-80% of your possession when you're away from home. We got the goals, we got 2-0 up, and then I thought we just completely closed the game out. And fair play to the boys. I thought Neil changed it a little bit second half. He stopped the wing back pushing on us quickly, made him play. Maybe have a little bit defensive in mind, and he put those kind of bank of 5 and a bank of 4 in place and made it hard for Colchester to create chances.
Yeah, I think credit has to go to Neil, and I said that on Twitter after the Hartlepool game because he's taken pelters, and some of it rightly so. We understand the constraints that he was working under before Mr. Galinson arrived, but at the same time, when you're in charge of a team that had scored 6 goals in 22 or whatever it was and only won 2 football matches, you're going to come under pressure. But I think then obviously you have to see it from the other side, and you have to give him due credit when it flips around. And I think that was, again, we go back to the chanting yesterday. I thought was absolutely brilliant to see, and he looks like a different man. He talks like a different man. Even Thursday at the Q&A session, just looks like he's awoken from some sort of pre-Galinson slumber, and it's great to see. And again, long may it continue. That's a phrase hopefully we'll be using for a long time now. But yeah, second half, I think you're spot on.
Well, I think any of us in any of our careers, our jobs, when you're under a lot of pressure at work, you behave in a certain way. It has an effect on your personality, doesn't it? And I think, I think hopefully going forward, we're going to see the best of Neil Harris now. He's a top bloke. I've got a huge amount of respect and confidence in Neil.
Yeah, I do hope he gets the chance now, because it's become very clear over the last few weeks that he took the job initially waiting for something to happen. Obviously, we didn't know what it was at the time. So he's essentially put his reputation on the line and signed. Because I said when he took it, I know this was before you arrived back at the club after getting the call from Mr. Scally in the summer, but we just couldn't believe it, because we said we've got a manager here who's championship quality, who's done a job on limited resources for that division and done really well. And he was coming in to essentially sign off a relegation onto his CV. And I know we got closer than we probably ever imagined, but for me, that's what he was effectively doing. And we all kept saying, why has he signed a 2.5-year deal? Why has he come to a football club that's, 10 points adrift from safety? Now we know. And let's hope that he can do everything and implement everything that he wants to do and what he told us he wanted to do when he first took that job pretty much a year ago.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think they. I keep saying this to everyone. You cannot believe how hard Neil, and all the coaching side actually work. I go back to my time sort of 20 years ago at the club, and I can tell you what, Neil works a lot harder than the managers who are in place in those days. 7:15. He's there every morning. They're planning the training sessions. Unbelievably professionally prepared those players are every day. Data, nutrition, fitness. They're all looking at how people are performing in training, who's just going over the edge in terms of propensity to get injured, who's on the upward curve in terms of their fitness, who needs to do a bit more. It's a very professional setup the Neil runs, and it was so frustrating for all of us that we weren't getting the results on a Saturday or Tuesday night. It wasn't for want of trying. But,
oh no, and again, I don't think anyone's ever doubted that at all from any of the coaching team. I don't think anyone could level that at Neil or Dave or Derrin or James or anyone who else is involved, the physios, the analysis and all that as well. And it's great for them that finally, and it's probably taken longer than we'd all hoped, that hard work should, fingers crossed, start coming to fruition and seeing some proper results that it deserves. Back to that second half quickly though, Paul. You said we saw the game out. I've written down game management absolutely spot on. It was great to have the likes of George Lapsley come on and Shay Alexander, you've already mentioned, came on at wing back, and we tucked Robbie inside, who I thought was brilliant again, who's another one who looks a completely different player since the takeover has happened. George Lapsley, that was nearly an impact, wasn't it? First flick from Ollie Hawkins. I thought he was just going to shift it onto his left and bang one in the bottom corner. And I think that was the only thing missing from my point of view, was if we could have just pinched one down at our end as well. That would have been the cherry on the icing on a very nice cake, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to have seen a goal down that end in front of those sort of 1,250 fans. That would have just been amazing. Yeah. But when George came on, I mean, he looks a player, doesn't he? I mean, I haven't seen first. I mean, I saw him play against us at home, but first of all, I've obviously seen him in the Gills shirt, and I've not been down and watched him in training. But I mean, what a player he looks! I thought, doesn't he? You could just tell he's just got the legs and the intelligence as well. I'm a big believer in intelligent footballers, and you can see he looks. He's an intelligent footballer again. That first touch. I mean, I was sitting next to Brad, and I was going, "He's going to bloody score on his first touch." What a debut that was.
I had to be careful that my language wasn't quite as colourful because I'm 8-year-old next to me. But yeah, I got a couple of slaps on the wrist for swearing, bless her. But yeah, I think that, like you said, that first touch, and then I thought it was just going to be one out of his feet, and I thought he was going to drill it bottom corner. But credit the defender who got across and made the block. But yeah, we've gone big time with these squad numbers as well, haven't we? We're very Premier League all of a sudden. 38s, 49s.
I don't get involved in all that. It's whatever the boys want, really, and whatever they think I'm trying to say.
I assume and hope they're just waiting for numbers next season that they maybe wear more regularly. I'm a bit old school as well. I used to love 1 to 11. I understand the game's changed, but yeah, it does make me laugh when you're seeing these numbers getting up to 50 and stuff like that. But if it means something to them and they're doing the business on the pitch, I'm not going to moan.
Absolutely. I mean, where does number 48 play on a pitch? I'm not entirely sure. As you say, I remember number 10 being centre midfield and number 9 being centre forward and number 7, right wing.
That was it. 7 and 11 were your wingers, weren't they? 2 and 3 were your fullbacks. 5 and 6 were your central defenders. 4 was the one that went and kicked everyone.
Exactly.
Now it's more difficult to work out. It doesn't help us fan channels, I must admit. He plays in the 10, but he's number 77. He plays in the 8, but he's number 25.
Yeah, exactly,
I digress.
Exactly that.
Going to have a look at Colchester quickly. I usually try and come up with some witty and funny. That's in the loosest sense of the term title for this, but I can't think of anything for Colchester. But we look at their best player. I thought for me, probably on the day, it was the number 14, Noah Chilvers. I thought he caused us problems throughout the game. Had Jack Grealish vibes for me. Socks were rolled down, slick back hair, 2 good feet, low centre of gravity. Not out and out quick, but just could look after the football.
Yeah.
I thought he was,
and a product of their academy. I was told, product of their academy. I think they had 3 of their starting 11 were products of their academy,
which is great to see, and it's something we want to aspire to as well. Is the lad definitely. Chamadou one of them as well? The lad who scored in the reverse fixture. I think he's one, isn't he?
Correct. Yeah, that's what I was told. But they said they had 3, and 3 of them were academy products. So, I mean, any football club to have lads you've developed yourself in your starting 11 on a Saturday. I mean, it's just that's brilliant. It's kind of what we want to develop, really. We've got some good lads in our academies. We've seen from our FA Cup run this year. But
yeah, I keep seeing young Ronald. I've not been able to get to any of the youth games, unfortunately. I really should have made the effort, because at a time when we couldn't score in the first team, they were kind of free scoring, and I was missing out. But they were just falling on times that were difficult. And obviously, again, you have to be aware of the family and the wife and that type of thing as well. And but yeah, obviously, young Ronald seems to be taking a lot of the plaudits because he's scoring goals. But there's a lot of other ones in there. I know there's one that's been on loan at my very local football team, Sheffield United, Sam Gale, who's been doing really well. So it'd be lovely to have another Jack Tucker or another Bradley Dack, wouldn't it, come through and make a positive impact on the first team. Let's get back to Gills, though. I know we've spoken about Noah Chilvers. I thought he was the best Colchester player. Just quickly, his stats were 90 minutes, 3 shots in total, 1 on target that forced a save, 76% pass completion and 3 key passes. So he was the biggest threat. What I thought, though, Paul, I don't know if you agree, was I thought the 2 players that really caused us a problem at home just 3 or 4 weeks ago were John Akindi and the lad junior Shamadou that we've already mentioned. I thought we did really well in keeping them quiet on the whole. Like I say, Akindi only got in behind once, and I thought Shamadou was fairly poor compared to the last time we saw him, and I think was at fault for the shot from Dom Jeffries that essentially led to the second goal.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Akindi away looks a threat, and he just looks a different player from when he was with us. He looks he looks like what you need as a Division 2. Every team needs that kind of big centre forward, don't they, in League 2? And I thought Akindi, he just looks the part for Colchester. I was like thinking, why was he not like that when he was with us? He puts it about a bit. He's aggressive. But I thought Will Wright and I thought Max, I thought in particular, I thought they just did a great job against him yesterday. They did a great job. But he makes centre backs think, doesn't he, John does? He's a good lad. He's a
lump, yeah. And as much as I find the chance slightly amusing that we're being directed his way about a certain part of his body being offside, I'm not sure there's too many of us Gills fans that'd say it to his face if we bumped into him in the street.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I certainly would. I wouldn't want to see. I wouldn't want to see John on late on a Saturday night. Let's put it like that. Walking.
No, I'd like to have him.
He's a big lad.
He's a big lad,
a lovely lad. But on a football pitch, he definitely puts it about. On a Saturday night.
Yeah, it'd just be interesting, like you say, to go back to why didn't we see it with us if he'd ever got maybe a more consistent run of games, because we know Verdane Oliver was superb for 2 seasons, so obviously it meant John was playing second fiddle to that. But again, aside from 2 games a season, I hope he does well. I'm not one of these players that likes to abuse former players. I'm too old, essentially.
No. Good luck to him. And I don't know how it came across to the fans, but I thought Colchester were a good side. Actually, I thought they were good, young, and one of the better sides. So I mean, I think it was a hell of a result for us yesterday.
I think they'll be fine.
Yeah,
I think they'll be absolutely fine.
You look at us, you can see that they were a side high on confidence. And you can see they've won 4. Is it 4 out of the last 5 or 3 out of the last 4? Something. It was like
4 out of 5 before yesterday, and 3 out of 3 before yesterday. So yeah, to put it into context, it's a really, and ironically, that run started in Kent on Boxing Day. So it was nice to get a little bit of revenge, is probably a strong word, but to just level the scores up in terms of games won this season. Gills man of the match, Paul. I'm going to let you go first because I've written mine down. Again, similar to the Hartlepool game, I thought there were plenty of candidates. I thought it was a proper team performance. There was not one person that didn't put on a display. Who edged it for you?
Well, I was a bit worried you might ask me to start giving them all kind of marks out of 10 really. And bearing in mind, I'll be seeing all the boys tomorrow.
There's still time.
I thought that might be the case. But for me, I mean, look, I'm an ex-goalie. I just think Glenn. We got 2 brilliant goalies. I think at the club. I think Jake's looking like he's going to be a really good goalie in the sort of medium term. But for me, I just think getting Glenn back in the club, I think for me, just gives a sense of calmness to everybody at the back. Every time he comes out for a cross, I always think he's going to catch it. There was one in the second half as well, which, unless you've been a goalie over your life, you wouldn't have appreciated. But he punched one clear when he was really under a lot of pressure against 2 of their big lads. His handling, I thought, was faultless. And I thought there was another one when the Colchester lad sort of took it past him after about 70 minutes, and he kind of doubled back and tipped it away for a corner. So for me, yes, he would be. There was a lot of them. There would be a lot of them who could be man of the match yesterday because it was a battle yesterday. But for me, it would be Glenn Morris. I thought Glenn had a really good game. He's just a steady, calming influence.
I'm glad you said that, but not glad at the same time, because I only gave Glenn a 7 in the match ratings. Not only a 7, and I tried to defend myself. And now I'm obviously talking to a former goalie, so now I'm in trouble even more. A lot of people said to me they thought I was harsh. So maybe I was. And if you are watching, Glenn, and we do need to mention well quickly, Paul, if you just don't mind me going off on a tangent, Glenn Morris is now a club advocate, playing advocate for her game too, which is brilliant to see. And we're hoping to get, I think we're trying to get the whole goalkeeping department involved, fingers crossed. So we'll say watch this space on that. But yeah, Glenn Morris is signed up now with obviously a wife and young children as well to the her game too. Player advocate role, which is great to see. I think I only gave him a 7, Paul, because I thought everything that he did, because of how good we know he is, was fairly routine for Glenn Morris.
Yeah. But I don't think you can underestimate sometimes just how. But for me, good goalkeepers make the simple look easy. The guy's, he's no show panning as Glenn. I just think he's a top. I just think he just makes the simple look easy.
So you're one of these that watches Sky Sports or BT, and then someone says, "Oh, the goalie went with the wrong hand," and you start chucking stuff at the screen. I can imagine.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm probably one of them.
And some of the Premiership goalies, I'm not fans of them. I think they're all show panners. Whereas I just think Glenn's old school. He holds it. He tries to hold the shots. I just think he's a top quality keeper, actually.
I shall up my rating for Glenn Morris. I went for someone slightly different, and it was no detriment to Glenn's performance. I thought he was spot on, and I think the save you mentioned and again it comes back to John Akindi won the flick on, and it looked like the player had gone round him for all the world and was going. I thought that was Glenn's best save. I thought everything that he saved with his hands in the air was stuff that you'd be disappointed if he'd let go through. But I thought that was probably the best stop. I went for David Tatonda. I think, and there's been a few, I think he's the player since coming back from injury, which has coincided with the Leicester game being on the telly and the takeover. Looks a completely different footballer. I mean, we've gone from David Tatonda, struggling for fitness, probably a bit inconsistent, to prime Roberto Carlos over the last 3 weeks. It's been brilliant to watch. He loves the tackle, which I like as well. I remember the tackle on Akindi in the home game. He always seems to have a yellow card in him and he's playing the game on the edge a bit. But I thought he was absolutely brilliant. And he got on as well, which is, again, a sign of confidence that we've now got fullbacks that are okay going over the halfway line. I think because, and it comes back to the point you mentioned, because they were so scared if we conceded one, the game was gone. Now we know that we've got goals in us. Suddenly he's become this gazelle up and down the left wing. I thought it was a brilliant header as well, because if he runs into that, I think, and goes with too much pace, he probably heads it over. So he's just almost guided it and let it drop over the keeper.
Yeah, and I didn't realise actually until I watched it back late last night just how it was more of a diving header, wasn't it?
Proper old school.
I thought that's going over the top of the goal. I said to Brad, that's going in. It's going in. It's gone in. and when I watched it back last night, and I saw some of the pictures that people had taken, it was a proper diving header. He knew exactly what he was doing with David. And I mean, last couple of weeks I've kind of wondered if we got David's brother playing or something, because he looks a totally different player. Looks fantastic.
He looks incredibly good, and fingers crossed that it continues. Again, we still need a left back because we need competition, I'd imagine. But at the moment, it's his shirt to lose, I feel. And yeah, I like what you said about I think the Gills Kent Pro Images guys caught the photo, and he's completely horizontal at the point of contact. Yeah, exactly. It reminds me, for the younger viewers, probably Robin van Persie in the World Cup in 2014. But for us of a slightly more years, I'd say Keith Houchen, 1987 FA Cup.
Yes, I'll get that. Yeah, the Coventry FA Cup goal. Yeah, it's very much like it.
Seems to be it's a dying art. I think diving headers seem to be a dying art, unfortunately.
Yeah, I do wonder sometimes if David knows how good he could be. That's sometimes, I always think with David, he's sort of, how good could David be? You're never quite sure, but, and he's the nicest man you could ever meet. You can just see he plays with a smile on his face, and he just loves playing football.
He does, yeah. And again, and that's not just him at the moment as well. I think that everyone suddenly looks like they're playing with a smile on their face and they're really enjoying getting up for work and training and going to games. Just hope it continues. Like I say, I know it's the weirdest feeling being this excited about our football club at the moment when we were still bottom at kickoff and we're still only 23rd at the end of the game. But there's so much more belief around the club, the fan base, and absolutely everything now. And not to blow too much smoke up your arse, you've played a big part in that. Neil and the coaching team are now playing a big part in that with the proper tools to work with. But obviously, Brad and Shannon coming in has just completely changed the whole dynamic of the football club, I think.
It's a team effort. I would say, it is a team effort from top to bottom of the club. We've got some great staff. it's confidence. You know, confidence. Everybody needs a bit of confidence, and realise we've got some good backing behind us now with Brad and Shannon. And people,
yeah, and
you know,
even someone like Joe, I think on Thursday night, I thought was brilliant as a compere.
Yeah.
I've never seen him really do that before, and I thought it was great fun. Really did.
Yeah, and also, you know, I do need to say, you know, Paul as well. You know, Paul Scally, Paul's working really hard in the background on some of these player deals as well. You know, he's involved with Kenny and Hess and getting some of these deals across the line. And as I said Thursday night, you know, Paul deserves a huge amount of credit for you know, for what he's doing behind the scenes for the football club at the moment.
Oh, totally agree. And I think Brad would have been stupid if he'd said you're nothing to do with this football club. And I've been asked this question for years: are you Scally in? Are you Scally out? And I've always answered, I want Gillingham to be the best version of what they can be, whether that's with Paul at the forefront, whether that's with Paul in the background, or whether that's with Paul not involved at all. I just want Gillingham to be the best they can be. 27 years as our chairman and owner. You don't do it for that long if you've not done something right, and I totally get that. So I think it's a brilliant idea to keep him in the background and use that valued experience. He knows the English game that Brad won't. But I think it probably was time for him to maybe just slip into the background a little bit. And I think the setup's perfect. I think it seems to be working really well. So like you said, credit to all of you. I know your name's been at the forefront a bit more now since Paul took a backward step in the summer. But yeah, I think it's a brilliant decision from Brad and Shannon to keep him on board and use that knowledge. And I get that he's going to come a point where he will drift away completely, and that's because he'll probably retire and go and enjoy the rest of his life. I get that entirely. But for now, I think the dynamic seems to be working fine. And you know the old adage: if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. You know, we've won our last 2 games, and you know, we're going in the right direction. So yeah, as you say, if that ain't broke, why fix it? You know, if we can get a win next week at Swindon, you know, what's it going to be like against Crawley the following week? I mean, it's just going to be amazing.
Well, I put a poll up a few weeks ago, and I started it from the Stevenage game, and I said, how many points did you think we'd get? And I said 9. I'd have been happy with 9 from 7 or 8 games. So suddenly you're thinking we can get probably double the 6 that we've got now. And yeah, it seems to be working out quite nicely in that the tests are just getting slightly harder each week, because I think Hartlepool are one of the worst teams I've seen this season. No disrespect to Hartlepool, I thought they were very poor. Colchester away was a step up, still down the bottom, but playing relatively well. Swindon, now a team a lot higher up in the table, is going to be a bigger test. But, you know, if the boys are playing with confidence, they've got a full week on the training ground. If we can get another couple in to add to the group, it'd be brilliant. I'm not asking you for an exclusive, do not worry. Then there's no reason to why we can't go there and get at least a point.
Well, Mike, again, I looked at us yesterday, and I thought, you know what, we look a good Division 2 side now, if not, you know, a reasonable League 1 side. And I think, rather than all of us, you know, as I said, 21 games, 22 games left, rather than we're worrying about, oh, you know, we've got to beat Hartlepool, it's a 6-pointer against Colchester, we've got to beat Crawley. It's a marathon, not a sprint, really. And I think we could, I think we can beat anyone in this league or get results against anyone at the moment.
I think Paul's saying we're getting promoted, Gills fans.
I'm
only joking.
I did see some people who've had sort of bets on us getting in the playoffs. So I hope we can make those bets come to fruition. Actually. Oh, you're one of them. Okay, right. Yeah, good. Was it 1,000 to 1 or something?
It was less than that when I took over. I should have waited us to lose to Colchester and Sutton and Stevenage, and I'd have got better odds. But I went straight after the takeover. Unfortunately, it was a bit premature with that, and I got. I think it's about 500 to 1. Just had a pound or something on it, and I've had a few quid on us getting in the top half as well, which stands me in about a ton as well. So fingers crossed. No pressure, Neil. No pressure at all.
No pressure now. Well, you know, unlike when I worked in horse racing, I was allowed to bet. Now I work in football. I'm not allowed to bet on football anymore. So yeah, I couldn't possibly comment.
Exactly. Yes, we don't want anyone getting any trouble. Right, them dreaded player ratings, Paul. I'm not going to let you get out of it, unfortunately. I will do mine first, and then you can just agree and get out of it that way, I suppose. We've already spoken about Glenn Morris. I gave him a solid 7. It seems that I should have given him higher.
Wow, the old goalkeepers union, we all stick together. I'd give Glenn a good kind of 8.5. I just think he's just so calm. He just exudes calmness at the back, really, and I think that's really important as a bowler.
I'm the same with centre half, so I know what you're saying. In terms of the back 4, I went Robbie McKenzie, Max Emer, and Will Wright, all 7.5s. I thought they were all super solid. Like you've already mentioned, they were good against John Achilles.
I'd definitely go along with all of that. I think the boys, you know, I think Max shanked one, didn't he? And I think Will let one drop. I think in the first half, he'd probably, in hindsight, would have liked to have cleared and let someone in. But I thought the boys put big performances in at the back. Certainly that second half yesterday.
The lower league footballers at the end of the day, aren't they, Paul? If they weren't making their mistakes, they wouldn't be playing for Gillingham in League Two. That's the thing. And I've said this hundreds of times over the years.
I think they're all great players.
So do I. Left back David Totonda, I went half a point higher because I thought his performance was just as good as the others, and I always add on half a point for the goal.
Yeah, I mean, what a goal! I mean, I looked up and I thought, it's Dave Totonda who's in this. He's just on the edge of the Essex shell box. He was up and down the pitch. I mean, I'd give David an 8 yesterday. I mean, he ran Glenn Close as man of the match for me.
Fair enough as well. Right, we go into the middle four. I went Sean Williams and Tim Dieng. I gave both solid 7s again. I think they're good players because you don't notice them in a good way. Not because they're not playing well, but because they just go about their business. They pinch possession, they turn it over, and then they let the likes of Macca and Dom Jeffries get on their bike and try and get the balls into dangerous areas. So I went for them 2 solid 7s, but they did absolutely nothing wrong.
Yeah, I think probably both better games than actually, because it sort of slightly goes unnoticed. I mean, I'm a massive Sean Williams fan. I know Sean, Sean would probably be in the veteran category, but he's just my sort of footballer. He just breaks play down and just lays it off. I love players like that. And Neil knows how I feel about Sean.
I think I labelled him in pre-season the calm amongst the chaos.
He's definitely calm. Calm. I mean, I thought they both had superb games, so I'd probably give them both 7.5.
Fair enough. Seems I've been harsh here. When we lose, I'm getting told I'm too positive, and then when we win, I get told I've not gone high. And I'm just going to give everyone 10s every time we win a game, and then it'll save a lot of drama, won't it? In terms of the two more attack-minded midfielders, Dom Jeffries and Alex McDonald, I thought both were 7.5s. Again, Dom just seems to be getting better and better every week. He's almost undroppable at the moment, and it's great to see Macca having a positive impact on football matches again.
Yeah. I mean, I'll come on to Macca, but I think Dom, again, I'm old enough to remember sort of the Brian Robson era. He's just one of them players. There's a lot of football these days. When you watch the Premiership stuff, it's all kind of played sideways and it's all little triangles. What I love about Dom is he gets it and he kind of drives through. He's like a rugby. He's like a rugby player who kind of breaks the line as such, really. And I think that's so important. I mean, that run he had for our goal just before half time. I mean, that was down to time. And it was exactly
there was one before that as well, I think, and he got crowded out on the edge of the box as well.
Yeah. And I mean, what a player I think he's going to be. I think he's only 20 or 21, I think. What a player Dom's going to be, I think, going forward. And I'll tell you what, old Macca, I mean, I just think, sorry, I shouldn't say old, he's not old. But I think Macca is just showing us the quality he's got. Both goals he's delivered, and both goals he would get assists for. It was the corner he delivered and that cross first.
I think he's harshly been done out of the first one, hasn't he? Because Timmy's got a flick on it, so it goes to Timmy.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's a pre-assist, they call it up in the Premier League, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he just whips the ball in, doesn't he? He whips the ball in like he did that night at Brentford, just after he come on.
I was going to say, yeah, penny for me, command John Stokes, because suddenly there was 3 really good balls in the box yesterday. There was the 2 you've mentioned. I think there was one that Hawkins got on the end of the second half and headed it over into the away end. But yeah, superb and great to see Macca having.
Yeah, and I think people don't realise just how hard he's had to work to come back. He had a serious knee injury, a lot of time out of the game. I think there's a lot of us at the club willing him to come back. And when he started the season, he probably with himself say a lot of work to do on his fitness, but it's great to see him back. And he just gives us that bite, doesn't he? He just gives us that bite. I mean, us as fans, I think we all love that kind of footballer.
I think he's a Gillingham footballer, isn't he? I was going to say, yeah, he's a Gillingham footballer. And I imagine he's very good on the training ground and in the dressing room. You'd probably know more about that, but he just comes across as a great character.
He's a character. He's a character and he's a leader in the dressing room. And every team needs that. Every team needs that.
Great to see. Again, long may it continue. Copy and paste. But copy and paste good reasons at the moment rather than talking about how rubbish we've been. In terms of the front two, we mentioned Tom Nichols earlier with the goal. We know he's technically very good. He's very clever. Reminds me of like a little bit of a lower league sort of Teddy Sheringham type. He's not out and out quick, but the first half a yard's in the brain. I gave him a 7.5. I thought the performance was a 7. For the goal. Like we said, he didn't have loads of it, but when he did have it, we came alive in the final third.
Yeah, I think that's a sign of a good player, though, isn't it? Really, sometimes yesterday away from home, I thought both the front two were probably. They didn't show as much as they did at the home game. But you wouldn't expect them to. It's an away game. it's an away game, and I thought, Tom, I'd probably give Tom, I'd give Tom a 7 out of 10 probably yesterday. But it was a solid, as I said earlier, when he gets the ball, he just kind of makes things happen. Doesn't he? Give the ball into his feet, he looks up, he holds the player off, and he brings other players into the game. It's good description actually. A lower league Teddy Sheringham. I like that. That's really good analogy.
Take that one. We'll keep that one. One quick question. You might have seen on social media. I'm not sure because you've been out enjoying around the golf today. Did the ball go out of play for the first goal? I know it was a minute and a half beforehand, but I've looked it back. It was, but again, the tenacity of Tom Nichols to chase a lost cause and to make sure that he got there and prevented the goal kick and then may have prevented the throw on. But we deserve a bit of luck. I'm not being funny. We've had no luck at all for the best part.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, me and Neil would always talk on a sort of Sunday after the performances before Christmas, and certainly early in the season, I just kept thinking we weren't getting a run of the ball. And then you think, it's not just luck, maybe we're just not good enough. But it just feels like our luck has sort of slightly turned in our way. I mean, I couldn't, I'm saying like Arsene Wenger, but I honestly couldn't see from where I was. I was completely the other side of the pitch, whether that ball went out.
Of course, no, I just wondered if you'd seen anything on the highlights.
No, but it's all down to, any good day, it's down to the officials, isn't it? One thing I learned when I was playing football, you play to the whistle, don't you? It's just kind of one of the basic things of football.
Well, yeah, and exactly. And also from a Colchester fan point of view, I mean, you've got to be a bit concerned that happened the other side of the pitch. The ball's then made 3 or 4 passes across, and a block cross, and then another cross comes into their box. So I don't think it's directly the reason that they conceded the opener. I just think they were clutching at straws a little bit.
Well, I guess sometimes you think, how would we have felt about it? But hey, we needed a bit of luck, and if it was out or whether it was in, frankly, who cares? We scored.
Exactly, and that you say that's one in each game now, isn't it? In the last 2, because the Hartlepool disallowed one a couple of minutes before Dom Jeffries smashed one in the top corner last week. Hopefully, that is a sign of the future, and we are going to get the rub of the green a bit more. Ollie Hawkins, I gave a solid 7. Again, like you said, away from home, he wasn't in the game as much. I thought he was man-marked pretty well by their big centre backs, but he's a threat, isn't he? And he's a presence, and he takes defenders away from other footballers.
Exactly. And I just think, isn't it good to have a bit of physical presence up front? And when they're putting their arms over him, he's giving them a bit back. That's what you want in your team, isn't it? He looks a Gillingham kind of player to me, does Ollie?
Oh, again, yeah. And I just think the likes of, well, obviously Tom and, we know there's a week or 2 of the transfer window left, so I don't want to say it, but I just think any of those other front players that we've got or may get will thrive playing with Tom with Ollie, because Tom's technically very good, will pick up pockets of space. Lewis Walker, I think, is pretty similar to Scott Cashkitton, will want to run in behind and stretch. And if you can get any of them playing off of the flick-ons and the hold-up play of Ollie Hawkins, then we're going to be a better football team moving forward.
Definitely. And look, the boys just need a bit of time together, don't they? Once they all have a bit of time together, they start to work out what each individual strengths and weaknesses are. And when they start to realise what Ollie's all about, I think we're going to be hell of a football team, either the second half of this season or, looking forward to next season.
Certainly next year, definitely. Substitutes, I gave Shay Alexander and Jules Lapsley both 7s. I thought they came on, they helped to see the game out. I didn't give Stuart O'Keefe a rating because I think he only got about a minute and a half. But again, it was great to have that calibre of player coming on to help us see the victory out and get us over the line.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I thought George really ran about. Literally, that's the first time I've seen him play. I've seen some videos of him and stuff. But I thought, what a player he's going to be really when we can fit him in the side. I think he's just going to give us legs. He's another intelligent player, I loved his presence. So I would have given George a sort of 7.5. I thought the boys did really well. I thought Shay, he's a steady defender, and I thought he did really well when he come on. He'd be another 7 for me.
Really, really good. Yeah, and it's great to have these selection headaches for the right reason, isn't it? Rather than because Neil, unfortunately, and it has been alluded to recently, didn't trust the group pre-Christmas. So to now suddenly be leaving the likes of, because if you bring George in, you've got to leave out one of Sean, Timmy, Alex, or Dom, or one of the
good luck with that one, Neil.
So yeah, that's a nice problem to have. That's a different kind of headache, I'd imagine. That's not a stress-related migraine. That's a lovely headache to be having.
It's also kind of what managers have to do, and it's keeping the ones you leave out happy and keeping the squad happy. That's another skill of management that Neil's going to have to, resolve, going forward the rest of the season.
Oh yeah,
totally. Get more quality into the squad.
So I think I worked out if we get the 4 in that he wants, we've then suddenly got 27 senior professionals, and then you've probably got to look at trimming it a little bit, because people are going to play, aren't they? They're going to want to go out and get games and get minutes, and obviously that's not going to be possible even with, you know, big substitutes benches now. If everyone's fit, that's only 18. You've suddenly got 9 that you've got to do something with. So loans or letting them go elsewhere, I'd imagine.
Sure. But you know, look, you get injuries, people get knocks, people get pulls. You know, look at Callum. You know, we signed him, and he's done his quad muscle without he's out for a few weeks. You know, it happens.
He's just starting to get minutes, wasn't he?
Yeah. You know, he hasn't had a pre-season for a couple of years. It's going to happen. You know, people are going to get knocks. People are going to get injured. So at least now we've got a squad which has got quality and depth. I hope.
And still plenty of time in the window, Gills fans. I'm sure it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks. Paul, I'm going to let you go. It's been a real pleasure, and I really do appreciate you coming on and taking time out of your Sunday afternoon at the golf club to have a chat. It's been great fun. It's great to see you smiling. It's great to be smiling, and it's great to be doing these videos and talking about clean sheets and goals and wins. And suddenly, from 7 goals in 20 odd games, it's 4 in 180 minutes. The turnaround's been staggering, and again, long may it continue. Gills fans, I know you're all following Paul on Twitter. If you're not, why not? Go and follow him. He's always engaging. And he's doing a wonderful job, along with others, at getting this football club back on its feet and moving in the right direction. I'll be back later in the week, hopefully with a Swindon fan, to preview that game at the County Ground next Saturday. I think I'm going to Swindon. I think I've got a car load, so I will be driving over that way to watch us hopefully pick up some more points. And essentially, positive result could get us out the bottom 2, which would be great. Another tick and moving forward type thing as well. But again, thanks to Paul. Go and enjoy the rest of your beer, and we'll be back later in the week, Gills fans. But until then, enjoy your Monday when you go back into work. If you've got a day off, lucky you. But up the Gills.